Hi, my name is Angelo Lopez. I'm a fine artist and I'm a former member of Gallery Saratoga. Gallery Saratoga was an artist co-op gallery that was based in Saratoga, California, and it existed from 1974 to I think 2015. So today I'll be speaking to three other former members of Gallery Saratoga, Kathy Keenan, Murray Wagnon, and Jim Gott. And so thank you all. It's nice to see you all again after all these years.
It's really great to see you all too.
Yeah, thank you for coming. So, okay, I guess the first thing I can do is just ask a little bit about your background. How did you all become interested in art, and what's your favorite medium and or subject matter? Oh, I guess you can go counterclockwise. Maybe Kathy, you can start.
I'll start. I loved art as a child, and that was always my favorite part of school is when they pulled out the paper and the crayons, you know. And I pursued it kind of independently. I didn't have a lot of luck with art classes. I don't know why. It just wasn't very successful for me. But then in college, I got into an art class and decided I wanted to become an artist. And my father told me over his dead body, basically. And I majored in English literature and kind of gave up art for a while. But then after my kids were old enough that, you know, I wasn't running around after them all the time, I went and took oil painting lessons from a lady in San Jose and started painting in oils. And after I'd racked up a number of canvases, I thought, well, maybe I should try to sell them. They're taking up a lot of room. And that's when I joined Gallery Saratoga.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Murray, how did you get interested in art?
So my third grade teacher, Mrs. Akita, told my parents that I was an artist,
Oh,
and I kind of set the ball rolling, so to speak. Uh, they're both educators and on the intellectual side, and kind of fostered my cravings for art. Then it was art classes all the way through school, junior high, high school, and then college, of course.
oh, well, cool and stuff. And so your primary thing is oil, I guess.
Yeah, I painted oils. I got addicted to oils back in about 1976, and I've been painting with oils ever since. And after a long time of doing just basically studio art, I got involved in plein air painting, which really helped to improve my studio art considerably. Basically, uh, I've been just kind of pursuing that primarily. I still love to do studio work, and I'm doing some right now, as a matter of fact. And like I did a still life demo for your group, and I really love doing still lifes.
Oh, okay. And in the background is some of your paintings, right?
Yeah, my studio is just jam packed with paintings. I've
Oh,
got a plethora of paintings in my studio.
yeah. Yeah, one of the issues I have is just finding places to store my art and stuff. So,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Some of
Jim.
my paintings are decorating the garage.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Mine
Not
are the
optimal.
garage and the yeah, same thing. Mine are the garage too.
yeah, I built a storage shed on my right behind my studio to store all my paintings in, and now they're overflowing into my studio. So that's the nice
Yeah,
thing about having a gallery to show in, is that it gets them out of here. So
True.
yeah, 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 yeah. Jim, how did you get started?
In wood turning, you mean? Or,
Yeah, and wood turning. Or you can talk about your music career too and stuff if you want.
well, we'll start with my music career. I decided to be a musician late in my senior year of high school. I was going to go into drafting and architecture, which is the classes I was taking.
Uh,
The career day, I went to uh, office of an architect. Then late in the senior year, I was in the all city orchestra in Pasadena. And the conductor that was chosen to come down was from San Jose State. And he inspired me so much. He also gave me a scholarship to San Jose State, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet at that point. And this was like in April of
wow,
my senior year. And
wow.
so I went home and I told my mom, I said, I don't care if I starve to death. I want to be a musician. She said, go for it.
Oh,
So that began my studies as a musician. I went all the way through San Jose State. I studied with Tony Cerrone, who was the principal percussion in the San Francisco Symphony. He was a student of Saul Goodman, who was the timpanist of the New York Philharmonic for 46 years. And so I graduated from San Jose State, and then I got accepted into Juilliard for 2 years for my master's, and got to
yeah,
study with Saul, which was a dream come true. And then after that, I came back to the Bay Area. I got a job in the Oakland Symphony. I was there for 10 years until the orchestra went bankrupt. And I was out of work for 2 years because I had quit my day job in the final year of the symphony because it was going full time.
yeah,
And then the bottom dropped out, and I did nothing but I was a house husband for 2 years. Pat worked; she was the income basically, and I did a lot of side jobs because the people in the Oakland Symphony suddenly rose to the top of all the music contractors' lists, and so there was one day I worked. I did a rehearsal down in Monterey, and then
yeah.
I drove up to Sacramento to play a concert. Of course, you can't do that anymore with the traffic, but I was on the road all the time doing stuff like that for 2 years.
Yeah,
Then at the end of that, we were sort of, we're not going to be able to keep doing this. But then the audition for San Francisco Ballet came up, and I won that. and stayed there that was my career for 31 years. And I
Oh,
I retired in May of 2019.
yeah,
And then we completely did a life change. We sold our house in San Jose because it
yeah,
was worth a lot of money by then. And we moved up here where we are in Cameron Park, which is next to El Dorado Hills, east of Sacramento, about a half hour, 40 minutes, something like that, in the
yeah.
Sierra foothills. And we just love it up here. But now going back to wood turning, I had been a woodworker for a long time. And started basically in earnest when we bought our house in '92, and began to create a shop out in the garage. And first it was by a table saw, by a bandsaw, by all this stuff. And I was making a lot of furniture and things for the house. And then in 1999, the next tool to get was a lathe. And I didn't know anything about wood turning or anything like that. I bought a lathe. I thought I would maybe make some chair legs or maybe some drumsticks, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And got into turning and instantly fell in love with it. And everything else woodworking wise fell to the back burner. And I went full head on into wood turning. And I belonged to a wood turning club. And
Oh,
Rich Johnson, he was one of the founding members of Gallery Saratoga, it turns out,
oh,
he had just left the gallery and started his own wood turning school. And he said, Jim, you should go and audition for the gallery and get in. And so I did. This was probably in 2000 or so.
okay.
And that's when we were around the corner from Aegis over
Yeah,
there
yeah,
on 4th Street, practically invisible.
yeah.
I think we were all there at the same time. Murray, were you there
No,
then?
no, I didn't. I was actually in Aegis while Gallery Saratoga was there.
Okay.
But then I came to Gallery Saratoga when it was down the street.
Yeah.
Same here.
I want to say it was, what was it, 2002? We were in big trouble at that location and we decided we had to move or die. And so we ended up moving there up on the main street. And we were pretty successful for a long time there. And then what year did we go out? I don't remember.
I think it was 2015,
Yeah,
2014.
Okay.
Because I went to the very last reception. It was, I think, December 2014.
Yeah. I think it was the economic downturn that really killed us. There was, a couple of bad years where nobody was spending any disposable income.
Yeah.
yeah.
You went mute, Jim.
Yeah, you went mute.
How about now?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. Okay, so it didn't take that long before I became the president of the gallery. And I soon found out that once you're the president of the gallery, it's hard to get out. Nobody else wants to do it, And I finally realized that as a corporation, we didn't have protections for the officers legally, liability wise. And at that time, there was a person that was going around. This was when this lady sued Clint Eastwood for his hog's breath, I think, something like that, in Carmel for ADA violations, that kind of thing. And so there was this, she was going around suing everybody. And so I thought, and Pat told me, you better do something, or, because the way the gallery was structured, it was a corporation, but it wasn't clear whether we were a nonprofit or I looked back at the filing papers and it just said a corporation. So it
I'm
wasn't
kind of
well
confused.
defined.
Why was there being sued? What's the issue with that?
She was going around suing people just to make money, and a lot of them were for
Oh,
like ADA violations. Like we had steps going up into the upper level, like
yeah.
if you have to use the restroom or whatever. That's one
Okay.
reason why we put the employees only sign on the restroom door. That was the reason we did that, so that we could say, no, this is not a public restroom. And so basically, Pat said that, you know, if somebody sues you, as a gallery, the people with the most money are going to be the ones that are going to pay for all this. You know, we could lose the house.
Yeah.
Gloria could lose her house. Kathy, you guys, I mean, any of us could. It becomes a deep pocket thing then at that point. So we had to protect ourselves, and so we had done this in our woodturning club also. We became a 501c3, and then we had the officers and directors insurance is what it was. And it cost money. And of course, you know, nobody at the gallery wanted to spend that money because money was precious for us. But I said, we have to have this. And so I remember one meeting, I just said, okay, until we have this, I said, I'm not going to be an officer anymore. And I resign as president from this moment.
Yeah.
And that's how I got out of that. And then they chose, I think it was Judy became the president.
Judy Bingman, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I was before this because I don't remember any of this.
I do. I definitely do.
It was in the later years. You may have already left.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It was probably within the last 2 years, I would say, that this happened.
Oh,
And
okay.
we did go and buy the insurance. I remember Gloria and I went down into Campbell, and there was this insurance company that signed us up. And so we were covered then. But
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact timing, but I think we were already starting to lose money, and we were having to raise the dues. People were having to work more often because there were fewer of us. It became a sort of a downward spiral. The dues had to go up, so we lost members, and et cetera, et cetera. We could see the handwriting on the wall. And then at some point, someone said, you know, it might have been you, Kathy, said, you know, it costs money to go out of business. We can't just say on Wednesday, okay, we're out of business, because you have all these things that go with the state and all that. There are filing fees. And
I knew that because I had taken a company out of business personally before. So
right. So
I might have said that.
We realized that that it's going to take money to go out of business. So we look at the you know, how much money we had, and we were pretty close to that already. So we decided, okay, we're going to have to go out of business. And so I notified the owners of the property, and we went through that process, and we did go out of business, which was unfortunate.
Well, that's sad. But honestly, Jim, most of what I remember of Gallery Saratoga is so positive. And
of course.
it's very sad. I had already left by the time that you guys went out of business because I moved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
But wow, one of the things I loved about Gallery Saratoga was the feeling of community.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the fact that we all were really pulling for each other.
Mhm.
And if you needed help, you could find someone to help. And occasionally, you know, we would bring new members in, but it was really interesting. If they were the wrong kind of person, if they didn't have that sense of community and all for one and one for all, if they didn't have that sense, they just kind of drifted away. They never stayed. That
Yes.
core group was people who understood that community.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that
And
leads
that,
to. Oh, go
and
ahead.
that for 40 years.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was a gallery for 40, and for a co-op, that's unbelievable.
That's a
Amazing.
long time.
I'm curious. Am I right? It's 1974 when it was founded.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
It could be.
I remember going into Gallery Saratoga when it was over in El Paseo, Saratoga in about 1970, um, uh, to look into becoming a member at that time. I had just moved down out of the Sierras, and I was in San Jose Art League at the time, and was looking for another place to show my work. And so that was about 76 or so, I think.
And I think at that point it was called Saratoga Contemporary Artists or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
And it was a lot bigger. There probably was 50 or 60 members or something like that.
Yeah, it was a
Wow.
huge,
Wow.
huge
Wow, I didn't
space.
know that.
It was really big.
Yeah. I
Well,
liked it just
Lisa-
because it was an education process. I didn't know anything about this reception or about, being in a co-op, and I loved it and stuff. It was a wonderful experience and stuff. It was just for a person who, before then my self-esteem was pretty low. I didn't think I was a success as an artist, and Gallery Saratoga gave me a lot of confidence because I basically learned from you guys.
Well, it was a very supportive group of people.
Yes.
Mutually supportive.
Oh, okay. I have a question. How did you guys get started? How did you guys get started? I mean, not get started, but how did you become members of Gallery Saratoga? And since you are delving into some of the history, how did it get found? Do any of you know the long-term history of it, like how it got founded and this or that, or?
Not really. I don't know the long-term history.
Okay. Okay.
You need someone like Gloria, I think.
Yeah. Now, was Gloria an original member?
Yes.
As far as I know, yeah.
She was
Okay.
one of the founding members, right? I think, yeah.
And the backbone, it must have just killed her when the gallery closed.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
such a big part of her life.
She really didn't want it to close, but we said, we can't keep doing this, it's a downward spiral. It's costing people more and more to be a member. They're having to spend more and more time staffing the gallery, and it's going away. And she really didn't want to accept that, but that was the facts.
Yeah.
Well, it sounded like she had her heart into it and stuff.
She
I mean,
really
if she
did.
was one of the
Yeah.
founding members, and I think, was she the only founding member to stick through it through the entire
Yes.
run?
No.
Right? So
Yes.
that must have been that she must have had a lot of emotional attack. Okay, Gloria, was her last name Watson?
Watson.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Watson, yeah.
Okay. Now,
And we
okay.
have those great little arts things at her property there in Saratoga, the art and wine get together. Do you remember that? Those were great.
Yeah. Now,
Well,
how
she had
did
that for people that aren't familiar with it, she had an enormous front yard, and we would set up booths amongst her garden out there in the front yard and advertise that we were doing this. We did it once a year.
Yes.
And we would have wine and nibbly bits, and it was fun. It was really fun.
And we sold our stuff. We
And
called
live jazz, I call it.
Yeah. So how did you all become members and stuff? Kathy, you kind of hinted at it and stuff, but did somebody just tell you Gallery Saratoga's there and you just became a member, or?
Well, my husband was a member of Aegis Gallery, which
Okay.
was down the street. And let's be frank, there was a bit of a thing between Aegis Gallery and Gallery Saratoga, in that Aegis Gallery felt that they were a touch above Gallery Saratoga. And I went
Were they a
down.
little bit snooty, I guess, or?
I'd hate to say that. Anyway, I went down there, and they reviewed my work, and they said that it was clear that I had mastered my craft, but they basically didn't like my stuff. Okay, so then I went to Gallery Saratoga, and everyone went, "Wow, that's great, welcome." So
Yeah.
I stayed many years. I think it was about 13 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did you two, Murray and Jim, how did you find out? I mean,
I had been showing in a gallery in Pacific Grove for a couple of years, and was looking for something up in the Bay Area because I lived in the Bay Area. I lived in San Jose, and my mom was working at Braid Box, which was down near 4th Street in Saratoga, and she said, "Well, there's a gallery right there on Big Basin Way. Why don't you go in there and see?" And so I contacted them, and I guess we had a meeting at Margaret McGill, was that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Margaret. And I brought some works in and talked about myself, and then I went away and they voted me in.
Oh,
Which
cool.
was fortunate because the gallery in Pacific Grove shut down a month after that.
Oh my.
Yeah. Jim, do you remember how exactly you found out and stuff?
Yes, I was in my woodturning club, and Rich Johnson, who was a former member of this gallery, had just left, and he had seen my work. You know, I made progress really quickly as a woodturner, and so in less than a year, I was already making the quality of work that everybody was seeing after I joined the gallery. He said, "You need to go to this Gallery Saratoga where I just left. They're looking for a woodturner, and I'm sure that you'll be accepted." So I went to, at that time, the meetings were at Donna's house. I can't remember her last name right now.
Yeah.
And Daryl Joseph was the president at that time. So I went to the meeting, and I showed my work and all, you know, I brought maybe half a dozen pieces, and they accepted me. And so I started showing right away. I had to build that cabinet that was up against the wall where all my stuff was in it. And that was actually based on Rich's cabinet that he had before. I looked at his and I said, okay, I can make that. So I made the cabinet and brought that in and started to show my stuff. This was back when we were on 4th Street.
Oh.
And I started selling stuff right away. It was pretty cool because I had never sold anything like that before. And I was making some decent, well, not really. I was making enough to pay rent.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And and it was pretty much like that throughout the entire thing, but it was a way for me to not just keep collecting all the stuff that I was make. You know, I wanted to get it out there, and if it was enough to pay for my hobby, then that was great. And so that's what it was for me. It was basically an outlet to sustain my hobby.
Yeah.
You know.
So
And
this was your first gallery experience, right?
my first and only, actually. Yeah, I have not been in any other galleries.
Okay.
When we moved up here, I thought maybe I will make a bunch of stuff, get a whole body of work, and then go shopping for not a co-op. I didn't want to be in another co-op because of all the pitfalls that co-ops have. And most of the co-ops that I've seen up here are not corporations. The people in the co-ops are not protected at all.
Yeah.
And so it's you know, I mean, you're basically just you're walking this fine line between being in financial trouble and not, because all it takes is for one person to walk into the gallery and fall down and sue the gallery. And if it's not properly set up, everybody's on the hook. So
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do
Did you
anymore.
ever think of selling online, Jim?
I thought about it, but then you have to deal with you have to monitor your page all the time, so that if somebody buys something, you got to be right on it. Then you have to be able to pack it and ship it. And it seemed like there was so many trappings, I didn't want to deal with that.
I have an Etsy store, and
Mhm.
it's not that big a deal as far as time, you know, the time I put into it. And I've made a lot of money, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay, okay. I should
It's
try
not,
Etsy too and stuff.
huh?
So I should try Etsy too and stuff.
I think well, there's a lot of things I don't like about Etsy, but uh, I've sold a lot of stuff on it.
Oh,
It's mostly not my work, actually. But it's some of it's the jewelry work that I started when I was at Gallery Saratoga.
Mhm.
I
okay,
haven't tried to sell paintings.
okay, okay. Well, even though you don't like artist co-ops anymore, how did our artist co-op work and stuff in terms of the members and stuff?
Is this to me?
Yeah, well, to any of you and stuff. So
Okay.
like, how did it function on a daily basis and stuff? So like, I know we had meetings and stuff, and then what was the basic function of it?
Well, the basic function was keeping the gallery open during the day so that people could come in. And so then we'd have to have a schedule, and somebody was in charge of the schedule. And then people would have to sign up a certain number of shifts per month. And that became sort of like pulling teeth sometimes,
Yeah.
because people wouldn't sign up, and you'd have to call them and say,
Yeah.
you know, you still need, or email even, um, you, we still need 2 more shifts from you, and here's the shifts. They go, well, I can't do that, and I can't do that, and I can't do that. And so there's a lot of shuffling around, trying to get people to move around. And that was, I think that was the biggest problem that we had throughout.
We did have
Wow.
a couple of paid sitters that we could
Yes, right, that's
call on to come in and sit if we couldn't do it. But yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
I
think
always did the weekends because I worked during the weekdays and stuff. So I
yeah.
would pick a weekend that was free, and that would be mine.
And then I had the position for a while as being the hanging master or whatever. It was up to me to schedule who was going to be hanging their pieces at what location in the gallery. And I who was it that I took that over from?
Was it
I
David
had never,
Blanchard? Was it David Blanchard you took
yeah,
that?
David Blanchard. Yeah, I had never used a spreadsheet in my life, and he gave me a tutorial on that and got the ball rolling. And I did that for I guess a couple of years. That and actually I left 1 month before the gallery decided to close, because I was in the situation where I had to get my house ready to put it on the market or lose it. And so I had a lot of remodeling to do, and I didn't have time to deal with the gallery. So I had to back out. And then I guess it was the next month that they decided to close.
No, Kathy, I think I interrupted you. Were you going to say anything or?
I forget what I was going to say. Sorry.
No, no,
I,
I'm sorry to interrupt you and stuff. I didn't realize you were going to say anything. So, okay.
I thought that I thought that the trouble that we had with staffing was exacerbated as people started leaving. So to me, it
well,
was
absolutely.
an end term, that was sort of part of our end of life there. But during most of the time that I was there, it seemed to work fairly smoothly. There were always some glitches, but it did well. You were a great president, you were very organized.
Yeah, Jim, I really admired how you ran the meeting and stuff. Every month we would have a meeting and stuff, and you organized it pretty. We rarely strayed from the subject.
That's right. You kept us on track.
Yeah.
Well, I think my wife Pat was the one behind that, basically, because she said, you know, you have to have an agenda. And so before the meeting, several days before the meeting, or even during the month, if somebody had something that was an issue or whatever, I'd write that down in my notes. And then I would get on the computer and print out an agenda. And there was the basic stuff like, okay, Gloria, how are we doing with the treasury? And how are we doing with the staffing and blah, blah, blah. It was just like a list of things. And then there was things from the floor. If somebody had an issue or an idea or something like that, it was pretty straightforward. But I learned pretty quickly that you got to go by the numbers, or everything just sort of.
Well, it's like trying to organize cats.
Yes, exactly.
You've got a room full of artists, and if you let them, and we saw them do this, we'd be all over the board. Just
Herding cats, like that Super Bowl commercial.
yes.
Could you tell about the receptions and stuff? Wasn't it like an artist was allowed one reception a year?
I believe so, yes. And after a while, it became, and you had to do one reception every 2 years or something like that, because there were some people that sort of shied away from that. So that wasn't really enforced too much, because there were always people who were willing to have one.
Yeah.
The gallery was a bunch of personalities, and there are extroverts and there are introverts, and so some people didn't really feel good enough about their own work to have a show. And it was also a lot of work to do that. You had to advertise, you had to have a reception.
Yeah.
And all of that. And so there were, again, it was the personalities that came out. There were the people that were more forward with their own abilities had more shows. And some people, like, I don't remember Gloria ever having a show.
She had reservations about that, yeah.
Yeah.
However, the receptions were incredibly important, because those were they usually brought in the money.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Because during that, there was usually like a 4-hour period or something during the day, or it was, I don't remember how many hours they were. Sometimes it was on a day that were not normally open, so it didn't interfere with the normal traffic. I think I'm not sure about that. But yeah, we usually did. It benefited everyone, because I remember the jewelers selling a lot of stuff. People that made cards sold a lot of stuff. I sold more stuff at someone's reception than I did the rest of the month for myself.
That usually was true, yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because they give traffic for everything else and stuff.
Because
right?
people would come in and they'd look, and maybe they'd never been there before, and they'd see all the diversity of work that we had. And of course, we had wine and food and stuff like that, and it was a festive atmosphere.
Some people had musical acts. Some people had musical acts there, right? Like a jazz combo.
Yes.
Charlene,
Charlene Studio. Her husband was a drummer, and he had a small group. And
I forgot about that.
Them up into the upstairs loft, which was a little bit of the problem for the people who were displaying in that loft, because it was accessible during the show. So, that was one of the problems that we had in that small venue, was the way it was laid out.
It was pretty small.
Yeah.
Remember the guy that came to every single reception and every single garden party?
God, I never bought
every single one. He never bought a thing.
He would come to eat food. Yeah, I remember.
Was he just a resident of
Saratoga? He lived there in the village somewhere, and he would see. Maybe he didn't even live local, but he would see that local advertising, and maybe in the Penny Saver or whatever it was, where we were getting free advertising because we couldn't afford to pay for it.
And he'd show up for the snacks.
Yeah. He ate a lot of cheese.
He was a thin guy, he had a beard, and he wore a straw hat.
Oh, wait a minute. I have a photo. I might have a photo of him and stuff, because I had a few receptions in Gallery Saratoga, and I took a lot of pictures. I might have a photo of him.
Oh, he should be enshrined as an honorary member for sure.
Yeah. I'm wondering, was there an ex-teacher? Was his name Norm, who sold
Norm.
extraordinary?
Yes.
I remember he sold like 12, 13 paintings in one of his receptions.
he
I was
sold
always
out.
amazed.
Yeah, he sold out a reception one time on those beautiful watercolors that he did. Yeah.
Yeah, I was always wondering how did he do that and stuff because I remember his perceptions were packed.
Well, he was very good at promoting his work. That's the thing I took from him is he was a great self-promoter.
Yep.
He could talk up his work all day long, and he would share little anecdotes about each one, about how, you know, this came about and this one and this came about, and he would talk about, he was so charming that people would just go, you know what, I'm gonna buy that one, and maybe I'll buy that one over there too, you know. And it was, he sold, but actually he didn't I don't think he sold his stuff for what it would actually bring. His, you know, his prices were extremely reasonable because he just loved doing it, and he could crank them out, you know. And yeah, I remember there are some things I still remember about Norm. He told me once, he said, when you're carrying a painting, because, you know, like if somebody bought a painting from someone and you're taking it out to the car for them, he says, always carry it by the bale, never by the frame, because you can break the frame if it's a heavy one, and the bale will support it because that's what it hangs from. That has stayed with me the rest, you know, to this day. I remember one time though, when we had first moved into the last location there on Big Basin, and we were painting it. And so we got this off-white paint, and we've got all these painting trays, and we had this huge painting party. Everybody showed up, and we got rollers and all that kind of stuff. And I brought in some roller pans that had dried paint of all different kinds of colors in it, right? And so I'm pouring the paint in. He goes, "You can't do that, Jim." And I said, "Why not?" He says, "Because those colors will mix." And I said, "No, they won't." They're, you know, those are dry, you know. And so I always remember that. And I think it was because he was a watercolorist, maybe.
Oh,
Because when you do that with watercolor, even though the watercolors are dry, you put another color on top of it, and they're going to start mixing. But that doesn't happen with wall paint, you know.
Yeah.
I remember him being a very nice guy and stuff, but
Very
I
nice
never
guy.
talked to him very much and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the things I liked is even when I had a reception, several of the Gallery Saratoga artists would show up, even though they weren't necessarily, they would just show up for support and stuff. That was always
Oh,
nice.
yeah, we were supposed to do
We're
that
supposed
too.
to do that.
Oh, you
Yeah.
were supposed to. Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
just thought it
we-
was just a nice thing to because they would show up and it was so nice for you to show up and stuff. It was a lot
We
of
were
support.
nice. We did show up.
But also I remember in a few of my shows I wasn't alone. I teamed up with another artist a couple of times and stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, and I remember that helped because people who would normally not show up for my my particular show would show up because of her, the person I was teamed up with. And they would see some of my work, and I didn't sell that many paintings, but I sold a lot of cards and stuff. So, but I just remember it was just a good way to bond and stuff. I felt like I bonded because I didn't just see people during the meetings. I would see people during the receptions too. Or when I sat, sometimes somebody would show up just to hang out with me and Lisa, my wife, and stuff, just to talk and stuff. So I remember you were saying for me, it felt very communal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
I enjoyed the receptions, whether they were mine or not.
Yeah.
And I learned also that if you're at someone else's reception and someone sees your work, you can talk about your work and maybe make a sale, where if you're not there, that may not have happened.
Very good point.
It helps everybody who does anything to be there so that you can, if you see somebody ogling one of your pieces, you can go over and kind of,
A few of my friends bought your pens and I think you had tops, right? That's
yeah, I sold more tops.
During my receptions, hey, they bought a few of the pens and tops and stuff. Those were big sellers.
Yeah, pens, tops, and mushrooms. Those were my butter, pretty much. And
Yeah.
each of those, I think, well, the pens were like $20. The tops and the mushrooms were like $4 a piece. And I kept getting calls from sitters in the gallery saying, we need more mushrooms. We need more tops. You know, somebody would come in and maybe buy 10 of them. I think there was one person that would usually come by maybe once a month or so, and she had a bunch of grandkids, and she would come in and she would buy a bunch of tops, maybe 10 at a time, which was probably half of what I had on hand at any time. And when she was in town to visit the grandkids, and she'd give them all a top, you know, as a gift. And so little items like that, I learned pretty quickly that those are the things that make your rent.
Yeah.
Not the art pieces, because those are a little more subjective. I also learned, and Rich, my predecessor, told me that he said, you know, you're going to find that with the turnings that you do, the bowls and the platters and such, most of your clients are going to be women, which turned out to be true, because those kinds of things are the kinds of things that women use to decorate the house, put it on a mantle, put it on an etagere, whatever. And I found that to be true, although there would be men to come in when I was sitting or something, and they'd look at it with interest and stuff, but then they put it down and they wouldn't buy it. It's the women that would look at it and go, oh, this is beautiful. How much is this? And then they would go and buy it. So learn pretty quickly who your audience is.
Yeah.
That's a very important thing, is, you know, who's your audience?
Yeah.
Oh, when I switched to jewelry, there was never any question who my audience was.
Oh, yeah.
I had no male-oriented jewelry.
Yeah. So Kathy, Murray, for you, did you have what was your reception experiences like and stuff? Did you learn similar or similar lessons that Jim did, or?
I was never very good at self-promotion, like and my paintings, the featured artist, or the guy that was doing the reception, had the featured artist section of the gallery, which was a larger piece of wall to show, and I always had large, fairly pricey paintings, and so I can't say that I don't remember ever selling anything out of one of my receptions. I sold mostly other people sold my paintings when I wasn't there, primarily.
Oh, okay. Was it a fun experience though for you, or?
Yeah, it was great to have a bunch of people come, all my old friends and everything had come through, and it was a good gathering time for a lot of the people from the old neighborhood and stuff would come through and stuff, and also other members' friends would come in, and you'd meet them, and that was also, a positive kind of a networking kind of a opportunity too.
Yeah,
it was very positive experience.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just look at the four of us. We're still friends.
Yeah.
Oh,
We hadn't seen each other for a long time. And I think that speaks volumes about the camaraderie and the sense of community that the gallery was.
Yep, agreed.
Agreed.
I put a lot of effort into preparing for the receptions, and I mean, it was really a lot of work.
Okay.
And I learned, but I didn't sell a lot of paintings when I was exhibiting my paintings during receptions. When I switched to jewelry, I would sell a lot of jewelry. That was not a problem.
Yeah.
When you say prepare, are you saying self-promotion?
Well, when you have a reception, you get a chunk of wall to use to exhibit. And at one point, I made my own mannequins out of cardboard and paint to pose the jewelry on, and the pedestals and everything were my creation. And so that took me a long time to make.
Yeah.
It was really pretty when it was up, and it was really very striking looking. But it was a lot of preparation. And I found that the preparation kind of paid off in terms of how striking the exhibit was. And I remember I had one where I thought everything's going to be silver because I do silver jewelry. So, the shells will be silver and everything will be silver. And then I got it all up and it was awful. It was just all kind of gray. And so I got somebody's hand painted scars and draped it on everything and made it very colorful. And that was okay, but I never made that mistake again.
Oh, okay. I'm guessing it was Margaret. Didn't she do the scarves? Or
Yeah,
Yes.
Margaret did the scarves, but there was more than one person that did scarves.
I think Hildy, I think, did some scarves.
oh yeah, Hildy. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And so did Carolina.
Yes.
Carolina Mueller. Yeah.
Mueller. Yeah.
Yeah.
And who was Dory?
Dory Urch, Abby's daughter.
Yeah, that's right. She did scarves too when she was with us.
Yes, right.
Yeah, I noticed there was the jewelry people, there were the scarf people, there was
Yes.
the oil painters, there was there was all different. Our gallery represented practically every medium. I'm trying to think if we had a sculpture.
Yeah, there were several pedestal artists, some ceramicists, and Joe Cooley's gourds were.
Oh yeah, the gourds. I love the gourds and stuff. And
I
she
used
went
to love it when she would put her gourds in where my paintings were because the colors were all very similar and it was very attractive.
Oh,
And we
Yeah.
had photographers.
Yes.
okay, and David and Judy did the polar bears, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, she did the wildlife photography.
and great wildlife stuff.
Yeah. There was one more person. I can't remember who. David, Judy, and was
Photographer.
maybe not. Maybe my mind is wrong, but okay.
We had some photographers come in and come and go. One was Dave Anderson, who was the city manager of Saratoga for a while. He was
Oh.
maybe for a year or two.
Okay.
But he didn't stay very long because he was too busy with his job, I think, and he didn't have the time to spend.
Yeah.
One thing that I have noticed over the years of the gallery is that most of the income that the gallery made was from things like jewelry and scarves and to some degree wood turning, but fewer things were like paintings. And I think the reason for that is that a painting has more hurdles to get over than something like jewelry. A painting has to be, first it has to speak to the person. So it either does or doesn't. And then it has to be the right size. The person has to have room for it in their house. It has to fit in their decor. There's a lot of check marks that need to be to happen for a painting to sell. Whereas for a piece of jewelry or a scarf or something like that, a lot of those can be for a gift for somebody else, which a painting would never be, almost. It can be an impulse buy, and it's not as big an investment either. So, a lot of smaller things add up to a lot of money, where, one big thing can sit there for years and not find the right buyer. So,
Well, that is why I switched from painting to jewelry.
yeah, exactly.
Because I was still painting, but I had this backlog of paintings that I was not moving in the gallery. So I learned how to make silver jewelry, which I thought, I wanted the creative outlet, but I also wanted to get rid of it. So that worked.
Yeah, that's a problem with any, like we were mentioning before. Lisa, she wants me to be in art exhibits just so she can get rid of the paintings from the house and stuff, right? She just wants room, But yeah, I think part of it also, until I was in the gallery, I didn't realize the importance of self-promotion. and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And that's why I was so interested in Norm, because I was kind of admiring and envious of him because I kept thinking, how was he able to sell all this stuff? And it made me learn. I have to learn how to do that sort of self promote. I mean, Murray, you mentioned it too, right? And stuff that, yeah, it's
Yeah, definitely. Going back to what Jim was saying about paintings, the most lucrative gallery I was ever in for selling my paintings was the San Jose Art League Sales and Rental Gallery, where people could come in and rent a painting, and if they rented it for 3 months, they owned the painting. So that way, there was less of a, you could rent the painting for a month, take it home, hang it up, and decide whether it was right, and then if it wasn't, they could bring it back and rent another painting and such. And I sold a lot of paintings at that gallery by people just taking the painting home, and then after 3 months of paying for the rental, they owned the painting, and so like as Jim was saying, it's a big ticket item, and it's a personal kind of a thing, and it's one of the hurdles that has to get over is whether it fits in the environment. And that was a way for people, a less threatening way for people to buy a big ticket item like a painting, was because they could take it home for 1 month and decide they loved it, and then just a painless way of paying for it, kind of.
Do they still do that?
They went out of, I don't think the San Jose Art League still has a gallery anymore. It was on San Fernando Street, and it disappeared when the light rail stuff was going on downtown. And I kind of, at that time, I was showing a lot of pieces, sculptures, and paintings through them in public offices and things like that. Also, they were placing paintings out in public buildings and stuff, and I sold a lot of paintings doing that also. But I don't. When I moved, at a certain point in time, I had to go to work and earn a living, and couldn't feed galleries anymore, and so that I got out of the San Jose Art League, and I don't know whether they're still doing it or not.
Okay. Well, another question for you. What are your fondest memories of the
Oh, wow.
Well, I think all the friends that we made
Oh, yeah, I think that's
is,
the people.
there's no thing about that. Yeah.
Definitely
I
the
mean,
people.
the art and wine fairs were very nice also, but it all adds up to the people.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have fond memories. I still kind of know you from Facebook, right? But the fondness from Facebook is just I've actually met you guys. A lot of our Facebook friends are, they're not really friends. They're just people from a profile and stuff. But you guys I've actually met, and the fact that I learned a lot from you. I learned a lot about being in the gallery. I didn't know anything about reception. I didn't know anything about cards sell better than paint. I didn't know any of that until I think you need to be in that experience. And I think for me, it was just, the support and stuff. I don't do jewelry, but just the fact that, Kathy, you were there and stuff, it was helpful. Or I don't do wood carvings and stuff, but I learned from Jim a lot of stuff, or from Murray. I don't do landscapes and stuff. I learned from all of you, even though you do a very different. I do these goofy kind of cartoony paintings, right? So my market is very limited and stuff. But it was helpful for me to say, I'm going to still do it, even if my market is more limited, just because I love it, and you guys are here to support me.
Yeah, well, we love it too. We love your stuff, and I love those public things you were doing. Was it like electrical boxes or things like that?
Yeah.
Those were great also.
Yeah. But I learned a lot when I was in my reception. They were looking at your stuff sometimes more than they were looking at mine. So my relatives bought a few of the I think they even bought some of the jewelry and stuff. They bought the jewelry, they bought the wood. I just remember every time I had a reception, a lot of people kept buying the pens and stuff. So so a few of my relatives helped you with your for that 1 month. But it was good. And Murray, when I needed somebody for a demonstration in the Sunny Verde Art Club, you said yes. And, from what I've heard, a lot of the people liked it and stuff because a lot of people are interested in plein air painting. I just like the connections, um, this my social circle at that time was relatively small, and you guys widened my scope of friends.
Great.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was kind of heartbreaking for me to leave the gallery, but I just looked at my situation and thought, I'm going to kill myself if I do this commute. So I left, but it was really hard to make that decision. It really
Well,
was.
wasn't that when you moved to Santa Cruz?
Yeah.
That would be, I mean, that was a commute.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did seriously consider commuting over to, go to the meetings and do my, to sit in the gallery. But I just decided that it was a little crazy, especially because I hate 17 with a passion.
Yes.
I have a funny story about the gallery. It's not so much a reminiscence as it is just a funny thing that happened.
Oh, go ahead, share.
There was this lady that really liked my jewelry, and she had bought a few pieces, and she came in one day and she was telling me again how much she liked my jewelry. And she said, in fact, and she reached into her mouth, pulled out her dentures, slapped them down on the jewelry counter, and held out her wet hand to be shaken. So I shook her hand, and then as soon as she was gone, I was up in the bathroom. This is before COVID, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say. Oh, yeah. How many people do you guys keep in touch with still?
What?
I see Margaret McGill online.
Yeah.
I see the rest of you online.
Most of it for me is Facebook.
Peter Carey, yeah, most of it's
Facebook.
Carolina, she moved to Germany.
Oh, yes. She just recently posted about how rude the German people are.
Oh, she did.
Really sting.
Okay.
I can't go out of the house without somebody criticizing me over something stupid.
I'm gonna have to look at her Facebook page and maybe I used to message her once in a while and stuff. I messaged quite a few people once in a while and stuff, just to say hi and see how they're doing. I think Hildy and her husband moved to Montana.
Oh, wow.
Is that am I right? I'll have to check again. It's been a while. During COVID and stuff, I was emailing people just because in COVID you're just isolated and stuff.
Yes.
You figured, might as well just drop a line and stuff. But yeah. Oh, okay. Why do all of you think it's important for an artist to be a part of an art community?
Oh yeah, I think so, definitely.
Okay.
I've been involved with Monterey Bay Plein Air Painters Association now for about 14 years or so, and I think you would go stagnant without having that kind of a relationship going on all the time.
As you know, I no longer paint or make. I haven't made jewelry in a while, although I keep trying to get back to it. I started writing and publishing books. And I joined a critique group where people submit their work, and then we would meet and everyone would go through it and say, this is great, this was maybe could have some improvement. And the lady that ran that moved to Sausalito and gave me the group. So I now run that group. Oh. And I find that to be inspiring. And I mean, I always learn something from these meetings, and I know other people do too. And it keeps me going. It's like big part of Gallery Saratoga kept me painting or kept me in my jewelry workshop because, you got to have new stuff to show. Got to move that stuff out. So it's very motivating.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, since you left actually before, we mentioned Gloria Watson and stuff. This
Yeah.
isn't part of the questions that I prepared and stuff, but I'm actually kind of curious. I knew Gloria. She was very friendly to me, but I actually don't know very much about her. Do any of you know, her value to the gallery and stuff? You know, I know she founded it, and she was an important member of the gallery. What exactly was she an accountant too for the gallery, or?
She was the
Yeah, was she the
yeah,
treasurer, wasn't she?
she kept the books, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
She did it in an old-fashioned ledger style with, you know, on paper. And it was her and Jean Reddick. Jean helped her with it. They were the co-treasurers and co-signatories. And I became a signatory also when I was president, because you have to write checks for things.
Yeah.
But that was her baby, was the gallery and keeping it running and doing the finances. Like I remember I would sometimes have to fight her tooth and nail to make some kind of a purchase. Like when we decided to change all the lighting to LED, you know, because the other lights were cheaper, but they're hot. And they were heating up the building that we were cooling down. And I had to go through this whole thing and convince her, you know, well, didn't really need to convince Gloria, but she resisted it because it was spending money. You know,
She did not like spending money. This is true.
she did not.
Yeah.
Did not like spending money at all. She was very, very protective of the treasury of that gallery. And it took some dancing to deal with her on certain things where we needed to make some kind of a capital expenditure.
Okay. I didn't know her very well personally, but she was always very friendly to me and stuff. I liked
Very
her.
friendly,
I
yeah.
I didn't know her in depth and stuff. So
She was probably a more interesting person than most of us knew. I know that when we were there at their house, one time I was out and they had several garages out there. And in one of the garages, they had this little, it was pretty much an ultralight airplane.
wow.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Both she and George were pilots. They would fly that thing.
I'll be
Oh, that's
darned.
so cool.
And it was an overwing thing. It had like 2 seats, but it looked like a dragonfly or something.
Right,
And it
yeah.
was above the canopy was a big parachute. That so if they got in trouble, they just release the parachute and floats down, you know.
Ah.
But they were both pilots, as was Donna. She was a pistol. I don't remember Donna's name now. She lived in Saratoga there.
Yeah, we had meetings at her house a lot.
Yeah, right. That's right. And she was a pilot also.
You know, Gloria and George, I think George was her husband's name. They had a house down here in Pacific Grove, and I did an electrical service change for them because back when I was an electrician, they needed work done down there, and they had a real nice house right down near the water down in Pacific Grove.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, well, okay. Gallery Saratoga. Ever since you guys left, what have you guys been doing?
I served 7 or 8 years as the president of Monterey Bay Plein Air Painters Association. I shortly after the gallery closed, I sold my house in San Jose and bought a house in Seaside, and moved down here, and so pretty much been showing in shows and galleries and things down in the Monterey region since then.
I started writing and publishing books, and I wrote a fantasy trilogy, and I'm now writing middle grade fantasy.
Oh,
which I'm finishing up. Don't know, you never know as a writer whether you're going to get something published or not, but there's always Kindle.
Yeah, yeah.
And let's see, I after the gallery closed, I didn't do as much wood turning as I had before. I still did pens because my wood turning group club down in San Jose, which I still belong to actually, would do pens for the troops every year. There's a company called Woodcraft, and they would donate pen kits, as many as you would take. So then through the course of the year, I mean, there were some wood turners that would turn hundreds of pens on their own time. And I still do that. I've got 10 right here ready to go to that club. Because you get the free kits, and the wood for a pen is it's almost nothing. And I learned after a while that when I'm cutting out my bowl blanks on the bandsaw, that everything around the edges and stuff, you can save that, and you can cut those into pen blanks and let them dry, and then you got free stuff for pens. And I've got a whole cabinet full of all kinds of different wood that's been drying for years, and it's all ready to turn into pens, and that's what I use for these. That's pretty much the extent of most of the wood turning that I do now. I don't do a whole lot, but since we moved back up here now, and basically just changed our lives completely, I've gotten more back into flatwork woodworking, which I had sort of left behind before in favor of wood turning, and gotten more involved in using hand tools like planes and things like that, which I had never done before. When you start woodworking and stuff, I mean, everything is power tool this, power tool that. I learned through YouTube. There's a guy he lives in Canada, up in Manitoba, Eastern Canada. He's a brilliant woodworker, and I learned how by watching him how to use hand planes.
Does it give your stuff a rougher look, I guess? Is that?
No, it actually smooths it out more than you can with sandpaper. If you do it properly, if the blade is as sharp as it can be, that's the key, is learning how to sharpen it. I have these stones that are 16,000 grit. And when you polish that, I mean, it actually looks like a mirror on both sides of the bevel. You're getting shavings that are about 1/1000th of an inch. It looks like a little ribbon of wood that when you put it down on something that's text, you can actually read through it.
Oh, wow.
And and once you see that, you go, wow, I want to do more of this. And the nice thing about doing that kind of work too is that there's no noise, there's no dust. It's more therapeutic. It's more work, physical work, but it's therapeutic, and it's just a lot of fun. And I've gotten more into that kind of woodworking now. I've made I don't know, probably 6 pieces of furniture for this house, because this house is a lot bigger than the one we lived in San Jose. And there's usually something that Pat will come up with, can you build this? Can you build that? And so that's what's basically taking my time now. I've slowed way down. I like to say, when people say, what do you do now that you're retired? I just say anything I want.
How about you, Angelo? What have you been up to all this time?
I left earlier than you guys and stuff. Around that time, I had two things hit me. My dad started having his health problems. He was in 2012. He was in the hospital for a while. And I have these two very close friends, the Liebermans, and Don Lieberman he got sick and he passed away in 2012
Oh, I'm
and stuff.
sorry.
And so I left partly because of that and stuff, because I did show my stuff in the Sunnyvale Art Gallery and stuff for a while, but that's, people would just invite me to the show. And like I said, my wife just wants me to, as many shows as I can, just so I could get the paintings out of the house and stuff, right? But after that, I think most of my art, I still do. I was in the Sunnyvale Art Club for a long time, but I think a lot of my art and stuff is actually just my political cartoons and stuff. And I love doing that. But 2000 to 2023, I was let go of the Philippine News Today, and I spent most of my time focused on the Filipino American issues. And do you guys know what's going on in the Philippines? Yeah, so I was focused on extrajudicial killings and rising authoritarianism in the Philippines and stuff. So, but nowadays, in the past few years, I retired from the library because my mom passed away in Thanksgiving 2021, and my father-in-law passed away last year in January. So now my wife and I are caregiving for our my dad and her mom and stuff. So I do artwork still, but I think my primary thing right now for me is caregiving and stuff. And if I have free time, I do. Or, I think one of the reasons I do these talks is because caregiving can be isolating. And this is just a good way for me to connect to people and just talk and just, catch up to old friends and stuff, like, see how you guys are doing and stuff. And, Jim, when Lisa sees this video, she may actually ask me to ask you to do some furniture. So, but also, I'm always curious to know how you guys are doing. Like, I've done a few of these talks, and it's just that when I talk to creative people, it inspires me and stuff, not to give up.
Well, when we moved over here, one of the things that I did was I kept my schedule free. I didn't volunteer for anything. I didn't join another gallery because I had one grandchild already that we were living with, and another one came along a year later. So there was a lot of childcare and stuff like that involved. So when COVID rolled around, by that time I was like feeling so isolated because I didn't make any friends over here. I didn't belong to any clubs over here. It was all family. Fortunately, I lived with 5 other people, so I wasn't exactly lonely. But it was a tough time for everybody.
Yeah.
And the kids are a little bit older, but I've got 2 new little grandchildren. So I've now got a new crop of tiny ones.
Yeah. Does the writing group help you with the isolation?
A bit. We do it on Zoom because during COVID, we moved to Zoom, and some people dropped out because they just hate Zoom so much. We kept it on Zoom because people moved out of the area and still wanted to be involved, and there were people out of the area that wanted to be involved. So we just kept it on Zoom, and it helps. I find it very, as I said, inspiring. It doesn't really take the place of friends that you hang out with, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember. I will not forget. I'll have coffee with you at some point and stuff. But okay. You mentioned your 3 books, right?
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit more about your 3 books that you have published? And would you
Yes.
do us the honor of reading a passage? You read as much as you want, but read a passage from your book, one of your books.
I have a very short passage that I can read.
Oh, okay.
The 3 books are called The Obsidian Mirror, Fire in the Ocean, and Lords of the Night. They were all published under the name K.D. Keenan. And they're fantasies that are based on New World mythologies, legends, myths, and folk tales. The third one, I'm going to have to do a little setup for this. At the end of Fire in the Ocean, my protagonist, Sierra, loses her fiance off the side of a boat into an ocean that's boiling with volcanic energy. And it's assumed that he's dead. They never find his body, but it's assumed that he's dead. So she returns home and she's wondering what happened to him, because she's been exposed at this point to a lot of magic, and she herself has grown in certain abilities that she did not realize at the beginning that she had. And so she wants to find him, and she wants to become more adept at the use of magic, but she needs training. So she turns to her best friend, Chaco, who is also Coyote, the demigod, the Native American demigod, Coyote.
Yeah.
And this is the first chapter, or begins the first chapter of Lords of the Night. Oops,
cool.
Lords of the Night. There we go. Who do you think you are, Chaco? A drill sergeant? Sierra snarled. She slipped off the greased bowling ball, dropping the dishes she had been balancing on the end of a broomstick. The dishes shattered on the tile floor of her kitchen. She picked her way through the shards in oily bare feet, muttering, and seized a glass of water, gulping it as she wiped away the sweat pouring down her face and neck. I warned you this would be bad. This would be hard, said Chaco. He passed a hand over the ruined dishes and they disappeared. He cocked his head at her, amber eyes steady. Yeah, you did, Sierra responded. But what the hell does standing on a greased bowling ball and destroying crockery have to do with becoming a sorceress? I'm not applying to Cirque du Soleil for a job. Take a break, Chaco replied peaceably, but his equanimity did not soothe her. I am taking a break, Sierra shot back. Are you going to answer my question? Chaco lowered his lithe body into a chair, raking fingers through his dark hair. As I told you when we started, the training is mental, spiritual, and physical. This is part of the physical training. A magic worker will often find him or herself in physically dangerous situations. You need to be strong, very strong, and your balance, aim, and precision must be honed to the highest degree. Think of yourself as an Olympic athlete. Sierra glanced down at her body, clad in shorts and tank top. She had been toned and on the slender side when she and Chaco had begun her training. Now she saw a muscle definition in her thighs, where before they had been merely strong and well-shaped. The training was definitely making a difference, but God, she was working hard, and she hated it. I don't get it, she said, still cross. She knew Chaco was only doing his best to help, but at the moment she didn't care. You never exercise, you never practice. Sure, you noodle around with trying new magics once in a while, but I've never seen you balancing on a greasy bowling ball. Do you do it when I'm not around or something? Sensing that Sierra was easing up a bit, Chaco laughed. I'm a demigod. I don't have to practice. When you become a demigod or a full-on goddess, you won't have to practice either. What? What are you talking about? Well, you can't expect to become a goddess overnight. You have to work at it, like becoming Miss Universe or something. Are you telling me that I'll become a goddess if I continue the training? Oh no, there are no guarantees. Once you complete the training, there are still the traditional trials and tribulations. I don't want to be a goddess, Chaco. Your training sucks and I'm done. Sierra put down her glass and stalked away, leaving Chaco in the kitchen, smiling to himself.
Oh, hey,
Thank you.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, I know you use Native American influences on that, right?
In this particular one, it's all Native American. Actually, it winds up in the past in the Mayan Empire. Fire in the Ocean takes place on Molokai, the Hawaiian island, and is based in the Hawaiian pantheon of gods. And the first one, I wasn't even writing a novel. I was just writing and having fun. And so I kind of went, oh, let's do this from the Cree and from the Inuit and from the Aztec and from the, I just picked stuff from all over and voodoo. There's voodoo in there too. I just kind of threw it all in there, and then something happened, which I've heard other authors say, and I never really believed, which was my characters became completely real to me. and they would not do what I wanted them to do necessarily, especially Chaco. He
Mm.
absolutely insisted on being this lovely person, and I wanted him to be kind of sneaky and unreliable. I could I could not make him do it. I could not
Yeah.
make him do it. So I finished it. I finished it as a novel, rewrote it, and got it published through a New York publisher.
Is that part of the pleasure of writing, though? Is that you know,
Arguing with my characters.
yeah, yeah, but in a sense, you're in the process. You create this world, and the world comes with surprises that even you, as the writer, were not expecting.
Yes, it is part of the pleasure,
Oh, okay.
mostly except for when you get stuck.
Oh, is writer's block a common thing, I guess, or
Oh, I never have writer's block.
oh,
There is a very simple cure for writer's block, and I'll give it to everybody for free. Just keep writing. Even if
okay,
it's garbage. If it's garbage, the process of writing will get the juices flowing and you'll get into it. And then you can just throw away the garbage and keep going.
okay.
No, the stuckness was I painted myself into a corner where my plot, I could not figure out how to get out of the corner with my plot.
Okay.
And so I actually had to rewrite the whole book, which I did. It took me 7 years, but I did it. It doesn't take me 7 years anymore. Part of the reason is because I plot ahead of time. So
Okay.
I don't, the first one I pantsed it, seat of the pants, I just wrote.
Yeah.
And I plot now and I do character sketches and stuff like that so that I don't get stuck.
Okay. Okay. Is that funner does that take away the surprise, or is that
No, because in the process of writing, I may be following my plot outline and then I go, oh, no, 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 I have a better idea. And I'll go in a different direction.
oh, okay, yeah. I'm just asking because I don't know the writing process and stuff. So
I
okay.
think everybody's got their own process,
Oh,
really.
okay. Okay. Yeah. So your last two books were quicker than your first one and stuff. The first
Like
one was 7 years, or
7 years, I was working full time too as a
okay.
writer. So it's very difficult to write all day and then come home and write for pleasure.
Yeah.
And I took some staycations to stay home and write. But the second book took me, I don't know, a year and a half. And the third book took me 9 months. So practice makes perfect.
Yeah. And you're also a great reader and stuff. Have you read your I was captivated listening to you read your book and stuff. Have you done any other book readings, or
You mean where you read to a group or something?
yeah,
I
yeah.
did one a number of years ago and it was very satisfying. Self-promotion has come up several times in this discussion. I'm not, despite my background as a public relations person, I
Oh,
hate self-promotion. And so I should go around and try and find places that I can do readings or I can do talks. I'm a good speaker. Um, but I don't.
oh, okay. No, it's just listening to you now. You're pretty good at it.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now, where can you purchase your books?
Amazon.com. Uh, the books are under the name K.D. Keenan, Keenan. Again, it's The Obsidian Mirror, Fire in the Ocean, and Lords of the Night.
Well, thank you for giving us all the privilege of hearing at least an excerpt of your book.
Thank you for the free advertising.
Oh, okay. Now, Murray and Jim and stuff. Do you have any websites that you want to share with us that to have us, I know Jim with you and stuff, you're basically doing things on your own, but Murray, do you have any like you for your paintings or for the do you have a website you'd like to share with us, or
Yeah,
or
yeah,
like
my
how would you help us find your outdoor painting?
yeah, my website is murraywagnon.com, and it's on fine arts FASO websites, but it has a good representation of both my plein air work and my studio work. I'm in a lot of shows. Being down here, I have a lot of opportunities to show in different various venues, and I get into a lot of shows that are around the Monterey region. And then I'm in the Haute Enchilada Gallery in Moss Landing.
Oh, okay, okay. Um, your group that you were in, the plein air group, how would you find them and stuff?
So Monterey Bay Plein Air Painters Association was formed in about 2005. And I found them, I was in I took a plein air workshop, Catalina Island in Avalon. And one of the ladies in the group, when I mentioned that I was living in San Jose and it wasn't a target rich environment for plein air painting, she suggested I come down and paint with her group down here. It was an
Okay.
hour's drive from my house, and I started doing that. And I joined in 2005. I joined the group, and then that's how I got involved in the gallery in Pacific Grove.
Oh.
And then eventually, when I was taking care of my mom up in Los Gatos, and when she passed away, I decided to sell my house in San Jose and move down here, where I like to paint and where I have a lot of fellow plein air painter artist friends that I can gather together, and you can call on somebody up and say, let's go paint, and or they call me. And so it's kind of like the right place to be right now for me.
Okay, okay, thank you. And Jim, did you want anything to share, or you just want people to leave you alone so you can do your wood carving in peace?
I'm not really actively into doing anything like that anymore. So,
Okay,
I turn as if I get the urge, I'll turn. I still have my lathe and all that, but it's not the burning desire that it once was. I'm a lot older now than I was, so but I still have it and I can still do it, and I do what makes me happy now. And I got to tell you, it's so nice being retired where you don't have to worry about performing in any capacity in order to make enough money to live.
Hallelujah.
And I mean, we have our pensions coming in, we have our Social Security coming in, and with no mortgage now, it's more money in a month to spend than we had before when I was working.
Wow.
yeah,
And we spend less money. I mean, there's no commute. There's driving up here is an absolute pleasure, because
okay.
I can get anywhere. I can get to Kaiser Hospital if I need to go to the hospital,
Yeah,
which is in Roseville, about 40 minutes away. But it's a very easy drive. You just drive right along 50, 55 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour, whatever. You just move right along. It's stress-free. To go that in that 40, 45 minutes, I would go from my house in Willow Glen to Cupertino, and I'd be fried by the time I got there.
yeah,
So the difference is enormous. I remember when we first moved up here, we went to Kaiser and to get our blood pressure checked, and my blood pressure went down 10 points
Oh,
wow.
immediately as soon as we moved up here. And it passed on the first try, which had not happened in years in San Jose. They do it, it's too high. Stand up, put your thing on the machine, wait 5 minutes, okay, do it again, blah, blah, blah. And you'd have to, do it like 3 times in order to get it to, and this is when I'm on blood pressure medication, and it was still like that. There was one time in San Jose when I would go down to the Kaiser campus on Santa Teresa, down there by the old IBM. And I did, they said, you can come down and get your blood pressure checked anytime you want. Just go to the thing and tell them you're there for blood pressure, and we'll take the, so I went down there, and I'm on 87, I'm on 85. And by the time I got down there to the parking lot, I could feel the the pressure build in my head. I mean, my head just, I went, nope. And I went back home again because I know that my blood pressure was going to be up there, you know? So that just doesn't happen up here. All the driving is very relaxed. There's people on next door up here, people complain about the traffic and I just laugh because they have no idea what we're talking about. You know, go down to the Bay Area for one day and then come back and then say that again because it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Well,
we're very, very happy up here. The air is clean. We're in the Sierra foothills. We're below the snow. We usually get like a dusting of snow 1 or 2 days in the wintertime, just enough to make pretty pictures, and then it goes away in an hour or two. You know, you'd never have to drive in it. We're above the smog. We're above the fog for the most part. So we're at like 1,400 feet elevation, which is the perfect place to be.
yeah,
Air is clean. The sky is really, really blue. Not like the Bay Area. We go down to the Bay Area about 4 times a year at least, because we kept our dentist down there because we love him so much. And so we go down for appointments and things like that. So we keep in touch with friends, you know, we'll stay with friends, visit and all of that kind of, so we still keep our hand in down there. So we're not that far away. It's like a 3-hour drive if we stop once. It's not that bad. But I got to tell you, when we go back down to the Bay Area, we go, oh, just, you know, with the graffiti and the weeds alongside the road, nothing gets really taken care of. And up here, the roads are nice. It's pretty. It's just, it's worlds apart from just 3 hours away, you know?
yeah. Sounds like you're in heaven right now. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Well, I think I'm the only one left in the Bay Area. And
Really?
I think all 3 of you, because I'm only
Is
in,
that true?
I'm in Sunnyvale 3 days a week for my dad and
Okay.
stuff. And then I'm 4 days a week in Watsonville for my mother-in-law. But I still spend, 3 days is still quite a bit of time and stuff. So, yeah, you guys are now near the coast, right? Kathy and Murray, you guys are near the coast. And are you enjoying it as well? Or
Yeah, I wouldn't say the traffic is improved because the
yeah,
north-south corridor is always jammed up. And during the summer, of course, we've got all the tourists coming to go to the beach, which is when us residents don't go to the beach.
yeah,
But I have to say, I listen to the news about people just frying in the increased hot weather all summer. And I'm sitting here in the cool fog. And,
Yeah.
I never get hot. It's very nice. And it is a slower pace of life. And I am enjoying my retirement. And I think one of the reasons I don't do as much self-promotion as I should do is because, kind of like Jim, the fire to do that is not burning as bright. I mean, I love it when people buy my books, but I don't feel like I have to get the books out there to validate my existence as a writer,
Yeah, it becomes work at some point, and you don't want to do it that anymore. For me, wood turning was always fun.
Yeah.
When it becomes work, when you have to, the gallery would say, we need more of this, we need more of that. And okay, now you have to fulfill an obligation. And it's very freeing not to have to do that anymore.
It is.
If you want to do it, and you don't do it if you don't feel like it.
Yeah, I have to say I'm enjoying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am too. And again, with the traffic down here in Monterey, we have a morning traffic jam that lasts about 10 minutes, and then it's pretty smooth sailing the rest of the day. I'm sitting here right now looking out at the bay from my studio window, and you can hardly beat it. And I'm fortunate. I have a short-term rental that supplements my income, so I don't have to sweat bullets about selling paintings. I always feel like I'm driven to paint. My ego wants me to show them. I don't need to sell them. That's when it comes to self promotion. I don't really care about it, because if they sell, it's a great bonus. But I don't live and die on whether a painting sells or not. So
it's still fun.
yes, it's a great therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank all of you and stuff. I think I don't have any more questions to ask, but I'm just happy to catch up with you guys. It sounds like all of you are leading fulfilling lives right now. So I'm glad to hear that and stuff. So thank you all for
Likewise,
taking.
thank you for organizing this, Angelo.
Oh,
Yes,
sure.
so glad you did.
It's always great to see you, Angelo.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's great to see all of you and stuff. I'm hoping this helps preserve the memories of a really wonderful gallery that used to exist in Saratoga.